Guys, welcome to Javaism, and in this video we are going to talk about a strategy design pattern, and it's also very important design patterns for the behavior level. So basically a strategy design pattern say that define a family of the functionality and encapsulate each one and make them to interchangeable. That's it. The strategy design pattern is also known as a policy design pattern or behavior design patterns. Okay, what is the benefit of the strategy design pattern is provide a suitables to subclassing. It's provide the suitable subclassing. It's define each behavior within its own classes, eliminating the need of the conditional statements. It's make it easier to extend and incorporate new behavior without changing the applications. Okay, but in the use, so when the multiple classes differ only in their behaviors, like servlet API, it is used when we need to different variations of the algorithms. That time also you can use it. So it's also very important design pattern based on the behavior. So there are three types of the design patterns. One is creational design patterns, structure design patterns, or behavior design patterns. So this is the part of the behavior, and that is also really very important. Okay, let's see what is the architecture and how it will look like. So basically if I show you the architectures, okay, so this architecture will look like. So in this video we are going to design a strategy pattern with the help of the database example. So basically what will happen is whenever from the service or client is try to create a connections of the database, okay, so he will create a one database connection object, okay, and in the object only he will pass which type of the connection he want. Okay, so he will create an object of that database and he will pass here those having a one create db connection. So after that we can call this create db connection, internally call the database connections, and we can pass url, user id and password. Okay, and based on like we have a database, so database is a interface, and this database having a Oracle, MySQL, MongoDB. So based on your requirement we can implement whatever the database is possible. Okay, let's try to design it. Okay, so I'm going to the quickly to the Eclipse. Okay, and let me close all those tabs. Okay, and now I'm going to create one more folder called strategy. Okay, so let me create one class. So class name is test, which is client, and let me create strategy. Okay, strategy. So this is the strategy package we have created, and this is the test class we have created. Inside the test class, if you talk about the some MVC architectures, or maybe they are doing work with the microservice architectures, or whatever the monolithics or microservice, then you can use services class. But here we are doing the core Java, so we can use the core Java concept, and in the core Java we have to take the help of the main method, then only we can execute it and show you. Okay guys, let me create one more classes, which is not a classes interface, which is database. Okay, database. So database is one of the interface. Okay, and this interface will take having a one method which is create connections, or then after whatever the methods you want you can define it, no issue. Okay, so we can write here one method called void create connection, create a db connection. Let me show you. So database connection, so our method is database connection. Okay, so we can write db connection also. Okay, db connections, and in this connection we want three things, like url generally we are using, we want user id of database. Okay, and we want password, right? Password. So these three things we want while doing a work with the database, right? So we have created one database interface, and we have created one method which is db connections, and based on this methods or this class we can implement whatever the database we are going to support in our application. So maybe Oracle, ORACLE, Oracle database. So we can write Oracle DB, Oracle DTO. Sometimes the people are writing a DTO classes. Okay, sometimes people are writing like a Oracle DB. Okay, so let it be finished Oracle DB, and Oracle DB will implement one interface called database, right? which is coming from the strategy, and he have to implement one unimplemented method which is creating connections. So now here what you have to do is you have to write a code to interact with DB, right? But here we have to interact with the database. So what we can do is we are not going to write actual logic, that is the dummy code we are writing. So what we can do is we can just print, okay, database Oracle DB connection is created successfully, okay. And then after we can't provide the what are the user ID and password into the log because it's a data security issue, okay. And also what we can do is here we can pass something like for users, so we can print simply user ID, okay, for user ID. So this is the code we are going to write in whatever the database connection we are going to support in our strategy design pattern. So let me write one more class which is MySQLDB, right? So in the MySQLDB also we have to implement interface database, okay, no, this one database second one, okay. And he have to add unimplemented method, so let me remove this one, write this one, okay. And instead of the Oracle we can write MySQL, right? Again what we can do is we can create one more class, okay, which is MongoDB, okay. And MongoDB is also going to implement same thing, which is database. He also have to create a connections, right? So same thing we can do for all those database, creating a connections, right? But only we have to differentiate it, MongoDB database, correct? So our database is ready. We are supporting 3 types of the database, and we have a common interface for that, which is database. And database having a DB connection, so it will create a connections. But what about a strategy? So now we are going to write a strategy code which is dynamically going to take one of the object based on the database, and he will call internally this code. So let me write those also. So we have decided to write a one class, and those class name is what? Database connection, I think. So if you do database connections, we have a class. So we are going to write our own class database connection. So let me write like that, okay, database connections. And this database connection class, what he will do is he will store which one? Or like database object. So what he will do is he will write one private database object, okay. He will store one database object which is database, okay. And based on those database he will create one object. How? So he will write one public database connections, okay. And while creating an object, the people have to pass database reference, right? So once the people will pass, while creating an object of the database connection, he have to pass which database connection you want to create. So database connection means maybe the Oracle, maybe the MySQL, MongoDB. They have to provide here while creating an object of the database connections. And what we can do here is we can write this dot database equal to database, right? That's it, done. Okay, done. Okay, so our object is created with the help of this constructor. And once database object is created, we can provide one method public, and we are already creating the object, so no need to provide anything. Public's void create DB connections. And inside the create DB connections, we can take three parameters. Okay, one is a string URL, one is a string user ID, right, and one is a string password. And this is the three data we can take. Okay, and after that from here we have already database. Which database client want, they will provide while creating an object of the database connections. Okay, so those database we can use it here. We can write database dot DB connections, and we can pass our user ID, URL and password, all those things. Okay, once you pass it, it will call DB connections based on your implemented or call classes this database, and it will call it maybe the MySQL, maybe the Oracle's, whatever. I hope guys you understood, but I don't know like you understood or not, but let it be clear. Like we have a one interface which is database, and database having a one method called DB connections, and we have implemented this interface in the Oracle DB also, in MySQL DB also, in MongoDB also. So this is this part. Let me show you. So this part we have done as of now. Okay, this part is done. Creating a database, this is the interface, and this is the implemented classes. Okay, now we are going to do work with the database connections. So if you go and see the database connections, so in the database connection, what we have done, we have created one reference variable. We have created one reference variables of the database, which is interface. And while creating a database connections, this class object, that time we can ask like which database connection do you want to create. So he will send database connection. So this is the interface. So he will not send any object of this. He will not send the directly object of this database because it's an interface. So he will send one of the implemented classes object, maybe the MySQL, maybe the MongoDB, maybe the Oracle DB, and those we can store inside the database. So here maybe some people will send MySQL database object, so we can store here. And once he send, we can store, and after that, whenever he call this database connection, like create DB connections, that time he will pass three things, and based on three things we can call based on this corresponding database object. Maybe the MySQL, then we can call MySQL DB connections. If it is MongoDB, we can call MongoDB connection. If it is Oracle, it will call Oracle. Okay, and based on that we can say this is the strategy design pattern. Let me go to the client, and inside the client we can create an object of the database connections. Okay, and database connections we can write connections equal to new database connections, and inside this we can pass any one of the object of the database. So new Oracle, so we can pass new Oracle DB, correct? Once you passed it, okay, my computer he has converted it to the Hindi. Okay, once you passed it, it will return one connection object, right? So what will happen here? So we have created object of the database connections, and we have passed Oracle DB. So this constructor will call, and after calling this constructor, what will happen? We have passed the Oracle database. Oracle database will assign inside this database because it's a parent. So parent will take care of the child database. So this is the database we'll store here, which is Oracle. Okay, that thing is done. And then after, what we can do is we can call connection dot create DB connections, and here you can pass something here called MySQL child Oracle. So I'm passing some general HTTP : localhost, client will send something port number, okay, and something MyDB, like that. General I am assuming. So you can send MySQL connection URL, Oracle connection URL, MongoDB connection URL here, and then after we can pass the user ID is called root, and here also we can pass password as a 12345, and based on that connection will be created, and you can see the output. Okay, let me run. So once you run it, you can see the output here, like Oracle DB connection is successfully created, You can return the object also if it is not required, you don't want to return it. Okay, whatever the operations you can do, you can continue it and you can do. So Oracle DB connection is created root. If you want to create a object for the MySQL, so you can just change here new MySQL DB. Okay, once you change it and once you call it, this will print here MySQL DB connections. Once you change it here and you can write MongoDB, it will call the MongoDB object and you can see the output here. Let me show you guys MongoDB. But how it's working, so we have already created the object, so we got database connections, and then after with the connection we are calling create database connections. So once you call the database connections, it will go and it will call this method. We have passed the URL, user ID and password. Same thing we are passing here, but we already have a database which is MySQL. Through the MySQL we are calling this DB connection, so it will go to the MySQL. Once you open the MySQL, this is the root one, but once you open the MySQL here having a method, so we have a URL, user ID and password. We can set up the connections and whatever the operations you want to do, you can do it. But we have just printed the MySQL DB connection is successfully created and we have printed the user ID. Okay guys, I hope you understood a strategy design pattern. So this is the only patterns. Okay, so main role is like this database connections. Here we have to take one interface. Okay, and we have to create a variable for that, and we have to set with the help of the constructor, and then after whatever the operations you have to do, we can do it. Okay, thank you so much.